Now, Abu Dhabi said about 36 months ago, that it wanted to double the number of hotel rooms in the capital by 2013. More recently, though, we've seen a building slowdown on the surrounding islands of Yas, Saadiyat and Reem. Yesterday, the Gulf News carried the blazing headline, Abu Dhabi set for a massive hotel boom. To make some sense of the story, in the studio is Christopher Hewett, consultant at TRI Hospitality Consulting. Good morning to you, Chris. Thanks very much for coming in.
Good morning, you're welcome.
What are you making of this story? I mean, it seems to go a little bit against sort of common wisdom that there is some sort of slowdown. Abu Dhabi set for a massive hotel boom.
Well, what we've noticed is that there has been a huge impact of the new hotel supply coming onto the market. In the last 6 months alone, we've had over 6 hotels enter the market in the sort of the upscale and luxury segment. And what that has done is really just put a lot of competition on the existing hotels to try and maintain the occupancy levels that they've got. And the main way of doing that is obviously through rates. And a number of the hotels have been sort of focusing on providing affordable packages, especially for the corporate market and looking at corporate contracts, and that has resulted in a real drop in rates and profitability in Abu Dhabi hotels so far this year.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, really? I mean, about 20 new hotels expected to open in and around Abu Dhabi city over the next 3 years. Now, 20 is a fraction of the number we were talking about just 3 years ago. I mean, with this story, I mean, is the headline writer just having a rush of blood to the head?
Well, I think the context of the email is right. As you mentioned, there are 20 hotels. Now, these 20 hotels are the ones that are actually currently under construction, and it doesn't reflect any of the hotels that have been previously announced or planned. Now, these 20 hotels represent roughly 6,500 rooms. But if you take in context everything that has been announced in the recent time, that the supply is upwards of 17,000 rooms. So yes, you're right when you mentioned that there has been a slowdown in activity, but when you look at the general context of how much supply is expected to come on or was planned to come on, there's still a huge amount that Abu Dhabi is going to be facing.
Well, the article mentions that the occupancy rate is sitting at around 60%. What is the this rush of availability? What is that actually doing to the average room rate for Dubai, Abu Dhabi rather?
The rate is dropping. What we've noticed, and if you look at the demand segmentation of Abu Dhabi, corporate demand really takes a big part of this. In 2011, it represented about 46% of your total room nights of demand. Now, we've noticed in the first 5 months of this year, this has actually dropped by 10% to 36%. And on the back of that, the rates have actually dropped. So if you look at the rates that have been achieved for this segment, we're looking at a drop of roughly 20% on top of that. So the hotels...
That's a slip in what, RevPAR, is it?
No, that's on the average rate for that corporate market.
Okay.
And what that indicates is a lot of the hotels are actually starting to become more competitive when they're doing their contracts with corporate companies to try and get that business in.
Can you give us a number? Like, what is an average cost of a room, in that end of the market?
Well, if you look at the corporate rates, at the moment, for the first 5 months of the year, they're averaging $154. If you look at the leisure market, that's around about $128. If you look at the general context of it, the corporate rates is actually very similar to what the hotels are achieving overall, and that's the same around about $154 as well.
Try and make some sense of this for us. I mean, there was this big talk about doubling of hotel rooms by 2013. What has happened? I mean, this was said after or during the global financial crisis. Is it simply the fact that it's bitten harder, or are there other things at work here?
Well, I think you're right. It has taken more of an impact. If you look at it and compared to Dubai's got many other generators to bring people in, and they've been very successful in bringing in large events and conferences that have really boosted hotel performance. In Abu Dhabi, it is very much hinged upon corporate demand. There is starting to see more of an impact of leisure demand coming into the market. The growth is of the leisure market is around about 10%, and I think that's on the back of the uplift in passenger numbers that Etihad has been able to achieve. They mentioned that they had a 13% increase in passenger numbers so far this year, and obviously airlift being one of the key factors of driving tourism within a city has obviously been successful. So as they continue to expand and include more routes, I think you'll start seeing a bit more of demand coming through from this leisure segment.
How far ahead do you design hotels? I mean, the current hotels that are being built, I'm guessing, were started, 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that, the planning stage. What is the sort of the lead time for a hotel?
Well, generally, the construction period of a hotel can range depending on its positioning, whether it's a budget, a mid-market, or a leisure or a luxury property, but it can be roughly around 36 to 48 months, depending on the size. And then
that's the actual build time.
That's the build time, but then you have the feasibility stage, the design, and then the approvals. The approvals from the municipality and the tourism authority could be delayed, and that could further on.
So it's really hard industry in which to do your forward planning.
That's right, and a lot of things can change within that period of time, from your initial feasibility to the time to point of opening.
And how long is the average average period before these hotels actually start to make a profit? How long do they get to make a profit?
Well, in general, when we do our forecasts, we anticipate a sort of a 3-year stabilisation period. So it takes 3 years for a hotel to sort of get up to the point of operational efficiencies, and it starts having more of a stabilised profitability. So, within that time, you have a ramp up. So you have your pre-opening period, then you have your soft opening, and then it goes into your first year of operations, and then around the third year is when the hotel starts seeing a bit of maturity in the way of performance.
It's going to be really interesting to see the effect these new hotels have, because the Abu Dhabi Tourism and Cultural Authority said the number of rooms available has increased by 13% since May of 2011, with hotel occupancy in May of this year reaching 63%. That was a 7% slip on last year. It doesn't sound like there's a supply shortage, so presumably that's going to depress RevPAR even further and decrease the occupancy rates.
Well, that's right. I think that if you look at the general performance of hotels, they have dropped in the way of occupancy as this new supply is coming on, and we are noticing an oversupply in the market. And really what is going to stop this is how Abu Dhabi is able to generate demand generators. There's sort of 4 main areas that they need to look at. One has been airlift, as I mentioned earlier. The other is infrastructure projects. Another one someone mentioned is the proximity to Asia. There's a lot of business coming through from Asia, as well as tourism. China is one of the biggest growth markets within the tourism industry within the UAE. And the last one is government spending. If Abu Dhabi government continues to invest money within the local economy, that's going to trickle down. It's going to be beneficial for the corporate industry, and that will funnel through into hotel demand. Having
the government there is no doubt an absolute draw, because people go to do business with the government as well. And it makes you ask the question, really, traditional Abu Dhabi City, the Abu Dhabi island, that's where people want to go for business at the moment. That's where you go to visit banks, businesses, government, not the islands. A lot of the hotels have been put on the islands because that's where the future generations are going to be. That's where the new stuff like the museums are going to be. But at the moment, it's pretty much concentrated on the island. If you look at the island alone, would you be seeing a very different picture? Has this sort of picture been sort of diluted, if you like, and decreased by the fact that you're factoring in hotels which are on islands which have nothing on them at the moment?
Well, if you look at Abu Dhabi Island itself, you've still got a huge amount of supply that's come online. You've had the Jumeirah Etihad Towers has just opened recently. You've had the Sofitel and the Hyatt hotels within the Capital Gate. You've also got the St. Regis Corniche that's going to be entering the market. There are a lot of developments going on in the islands. You look at Sadiyat, Yas Island as well. Subani Yas Island as well is going to have a few more developments coming on. And you've also got the recently introduced Anantara in the Eastern Mangroves. So yes, there are a number of properties that are opening up on the wider areas of Abu Dhabi, but there is still a huge concentration of supply within the central Abu Dhabi island area.
The new hotels that are coming online, are they chain hotels, independents?
The majority of them are internationally branded upscale and luxury hotels.
Well, thank you very much indeed for coming in and talking about the Abu Dhabi market. Christopher Hewett, consultant at TRI Hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you very much.